Most of the time when you use the camera, it's going to start with the lens cap closed. So keep the lens cap closed until you're ready to film. That's really going to protect the lens. On the Sony cameras, to open the lens cap, you've got a switch right here that opens the lens cap up and makes it so you can see. Then, to use the camera, all you have to do is open the lid and it turns on, it's ready to use. There's a record button that turns the recording on. Now it's recording. Same button to stop recording. To review your footage, there's a play button right here. Sorry, it's right here. Play button. You can use the joystick to select your footage and play it back for you. It turns the recording on. Make sure you are in video mode and not still picture mode. This is video mode. And then we have zoom in and zoom out. To remove the camera from the tripod, there's kind of two levers for you to hit. So I have lever 1, lever 2, and then I can lift it straight up if you want to go into handheld mode. You can also take the tripod head off, or the mount off, and go into handheld mode like that. Put it back on, same deal. I'm going to screw this in. Line the lens up with the lens. Make sure it's nice and tight. And it snaps back into place. To take care of the equipment, you have to be gentle on the dolly. If you have the dolly down here, you really need to be gentle with it. Otherwise it's going to get bent and warped. So be very gentle with it. Don't do any sudden movements. Don't be aggressive with it. And then with the rest of the tripod, don't force anything. You've got all kinds of levers here that can lock and unlock different movements, and you'll have to play around with that when you get it. Don't move the camera around with this. Okay? Always use the stick to move the camera around. Make sure you're holding it securely when you take it off the tripod so that you don't drop it. And don't force it back on. It should snap in place gently when you're putting it back in place. So the basic rule is don't force anything, and always keep the lens cap closed if you are not using the camera. Okay, now let's go over some basic types of camera shots and the terminology associated with that. We have a couple of different motions here. First one would be panning. So panning would be you keep the tripod still or the camera still and you're rotating the camera back and forth. So we have pan left and pan right. We can also tilt. Tilt up, tilt down. Pan left, pan right, tilt up, tilt down. And then tracking, which is moving the whole thing. So I have track left, track right, track forward, and track backward. And then you have zooming in. So zooming in is when you keep the camera still and you use the zoom controls to zoom in. That's not the same as tracking in. It produces a completely different visual effect. Okay, so that's our terminology that we would need to know. One quick thing is when I am panning or tilting, I do like to lock the tripod down, lock the dolly down so it doesn't move on me. So now that I've got it locked down, then I can pan and tilt pretty well. Another thing that needs to be explained to you is the rule of thirds. But I'm going to let a professional filmmaker explain the rule of thirds to you.
Is the rule of thirds. If you don't know it, then let me quickly explain it. Rule of thirds is simply dividing the screen into 3 equal parts, vertically and horizontally, and then using those lines when framing your shots. What that means is that you should frame your subjects on those lines or in one of the third portions of the screen to avoid putting things dead center. Like if you have a very clearly visible horizon line, instead of putting the horizon dead center, it's best to tilt up or down to have the horizon fall on one of the lines. This just makes the shot balanced a lot better. Same if you're framing a person. If you put the subject's head in the middle, like most people do when taking a vacation photo, then you get this. But if you quickly pan to place the subject on one of the lines and then tilt to have their head fall on the other line, then right away you get a well-balanced shot. Again, just because it's called the rule of thirds doesn't mean it's an actual rule that you always have to follow. There's many exceptions where, for example, this doesn't apply. Like if you're trying to show the importance of your subject and stress the fact that they are actually the center of attention.
Another type of shot I'd like to talk about is this one called the over-the-shoulder shot. Do you see how it's shot facing the person who is speaking from over the shoulder of the person listening? Psychologically, this puts you in the position of the person listening and connects you with the film a lot better. However, they also frame this up using the rule of thirds. If you added a third camera angle that was looking at the two of them straight on, that would be this whole thing would be called a triangle coverage.